Welcome to CINEMATICON Ex Mortis, the horror movie discussion podcast hosted by Kenny and
Heather.
So what we're talking about today is the sequel to the film we talked about last time. So we're doing Evil Dead 2. Some basic factoids about this motion picture. It was released in 1987, directed by Sam Raimi, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Scott Spiegel. It again stars Bruce Campbell and features a musical score by Joseph Loduca. And I will now tell you what events happen in this film. The first 7 minutes of this sequel to 1981's The Evil Dead replay a truncated version of the events of that film. Now, instead of 5 college students traveling to a cabin in the woods, only 2, Ash Williams and his girlfriend Linda, are present. As in the last film, they discover an ancient text, now identified by an opening voiceover as the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, along with a tape recording of the archaeologist who discovered it, Professor Noby, reading its demon resurrection passages aloud. When Ash plays the tape, unleashing the evil forces in the woods, Linda becomes possessed, and Ash decapitates and buries her. The evil force then attacks Ash, as in the final shot of the first film, but now the shot continues to reveal that he is lifted off the ground, rockets through the forest before smashing into a tree, and becomes briefly possessed himself, recovering when the evil force retreats due to the coming of daylight. Unfortunately, he comes to only to find that the bridge back to town has been destroyed and barely has time to make it back to the cabin before night falls and the evil returns. As Ash battles evil Linda and a host of other supernatural threats, including his own possessed hand, which he amputates with a chainsaw, Dr. Noby's daughter Annie and her boyfriend Ed head to the cabin. Along the way, they meet the hillbillies Jake and Bobby Joe, who show them a way around the destroyed bridge. Upon arriving at the cabin, they at first assume Ash has murdered their parents, but eventually team up with him to try to defeat the forces of evil. Whew, that was a long one.
It is long.
So, what do you think about this as a motion picture and as a sequel to the first Evil Dead film?
It's not much of a sequel, more
it's like a remake-quel.
It's a reimagining of the first one. It's like, what if this happened instead of that?
Yeah.
Which was interesting because, I rented it on Amazon and it was like, Ash once again returns to, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Nope.
On the commentary track, they talk about how some viewers have complained, like, why
would he go back there again?
Why is he so stupid that he would go back? And they think that's hilarious that people think he actually just forgot the events of the first film and took a new girlfriend also named Linda
that he bought the exact same gift for, and very similar things happened to. No, that's not what happened.
Yeah. There are some elements of the plot that, to me, indicate more continuity. Like they're set up to have continuity with the first film. For instance, the fact that the new characters have to bring the pages from the Book of the Dead to the cabin, as if the original Book of the Dead is not there, which it was destroyed at the end of the first film. So that kind of makes sense, and I think, thinking back now to the commentary track and behind the scenes stuff, that they were going to have all 5 characters from the first film in the recap sequence at the beginning of this one, but they ended up sort of paring it down just to get that sequence as short as possible. And I think they also were going to just use like a montage of clips from the first film, but they didn't have the rights to it anymore for some reason.
Okay.
And then the same thing happened with Army of Darkness, where they no longer had rights to use footage from it. So they just kept running into this kind of issue as they did these. So yeah, the continuity between this and the first film is very shaky.
I just wish I could be in the room with them when they were discussing how they came up with that idea, and they're like, let's do it again, but different. I want to know what their thought process was on that and how they came to the decisions that they did and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know from watching the behind the scenes stuff on Army of Darkness that Sam really wanted to send Ash back to medieval times in the second film, but they didn't have the budget for it. So that ended up sort of hanging around as an idea, and they sort of set that up at the end of Evil Dead 2 and saved it for the third film. So in a way, the second is kind of like a placeholder middle chapter in the series, in that, you know, they sort of knew where they wanted it to go, and in the meantime, here's some more stuff in the cabin.
Okay.
But which is kind of funny, because for a lot of people, this is the best film in the series and one of the great horror films.
Is that what you think?
I love all three of them, so kind of choosing between them is like choosing between my children. But this is not my favorite. What about you?
So they're all your favorite, but this one's not your favorite.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
So I think I don't know, in the way that I would order the three of them, I think I'm in probably a tiny minority, because I think there are probably I know there's a lot of people who say 2 is the best, and which is like a sort of perfect blend of comedy and horror. Then I think there are a lot of people who just dig the cheesy action, who really love Army of Darkness, and that's, I think, the most popular of the three, the most like mainstream accessible and so forth. So a lot of people love that one the most. I love the original film the most. And then I like Army of Darkness second and Evil Dead 2 third. So in that way, and I think probably anybody, if there's anybody else who likes the first one the most, they probably then would put Evil Dead 2 because it's the one that's most similar, and then Army of Darkness. But I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, you are a weirdo. I like 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, because the middle one is kind of, it's in the middle. It's
middle
tonally,
one is in the middle. Very good.
Yeah, no, I'm very smart. You know, tonally, it's in the middle of the trilogy, and
Right.
as being a blend of comedy and horror. So I guess we could talk about that. Like, how do you feel about the comedy in Evil Dead 2?
I like it. I think it's a good blend of the first and the third one. It's a lot more ridiculous than the first one, but still miles away from being in just nonsense territory of Army of Darkness.
Yeah. What I love about it is that, as with the first one, I think the comedy moments and horror moments are not, there's nothing in between them. There's no, because usually when something's called a comedy horror, it's like there's a comedy scene and then there's a horror scene. In Evil Dead 2, it's the same scene. It's like the same thing will be scary at first, and then it just keeps
exactly
going
what
over the
you
top,
mean.
and it just gets ridiculous. And yeah, so they're going for both at the same time, and it doesn't seem like that should be possible, because laughing and being scared seem like opposite, almost emotional responses to something, but they totally make it work.
Yeah. There's a lot of like really small decisions that they made that are brilliant. You know, it's like things that are so subtle, but it's like if they did something even just like microscopically different, it would have completely fallen apart, you know?
Can you think of like
No,
an example?
Don't make me do that.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Usually
great
it's
things.
a very physical thing, you know? It's like something they chose to do physically, or like a facial expression, or, you know, something like that. It's like if that wasn't there, like the magic would be gone from it. But they're so good at that, you know?
Yeah. Talking about our favorite comedy sequences, I love everything with the evil hand crawling around. When he's shooting at it in the wall and then it gives him the finger. That's so funny to me. Or I love when the hand is still connected to his arm and it knocks Ash out, and then it the hand sees that there's a butcher knife just out of reach, and it starts kind of dragging his whole body over in order to get it. We get a point of view shot from the point of view of the hand dragging along the floor towards the thing. And that is just such a funny concept to me. Like, we're seeing what the hand is seeing, even though it doesn't have any eyes or anything. Like, I love it. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know. There's a YouTube channel called Every Frame a Painting, or there was. They don't upload anymore. But they did these great film analyses. And one of their great videos is about the sort of dearth of visual comedy in the movies, because most of the mainstream comedies that come out, like Judd Apatow movies, are just all about comedy through dialogue. And the film is shot in a very bland, boring way with like even lighting and just shot reverse shot of a conversation between funny people, and what they're saying is funny. And you compare that to something like this, or Charlie Chaplin, or Jackie Chan, or Edgar Wright, and it's like the whole film is organized, the shots, the lighting, everything makes it funny. And it's just like, it's on another level.
Totally. It's like, there's people who probably watch these movies and they're just like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and they are completely lost on the brilliance of it, just like how intricate these things are and how many layers there are. And I just think it's art,
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of layers of like subtext, right? And that's kind of what makes it funny, right? It's like, it's kind of a so dumb it's funny kind of thing. Like I was saying with the hand, the idea that the hand has a perspective.
Right. But then underneath how stupid it is, it's genius.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's what I mean by layers.
Yeah. And I love that kind of comedy in general. Like, I love Beavis and Butthead. I love a lot of like so stupid it's funny.
Oh, I'm
comedy.
familiar.
So I definitely get what you're saying, that like something that is funny because it's so dumb can actually be like the smartest thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to a more like, I don't know, intellectual type of humor.
Right.
That might not actually be as smart because it's not as funny. Another thing I was thinking about Evil Dead 2 was this movie makes me, and Army of Darkness 2, they make me think about a cool behind the scenes thing I saw on the Mad Max Blu-ray. Do you know Mad Max at all?
You mean the Mel Gibson movie?
Yeah.
No.
Oh. Well, on the Blu-ray, George Miller, the director, and Byron Kennedy, who was like the co-creator of it, they talk about their inspiration. So they're these like Australian guys who set out to make this movie. Mad Max actually has a lot in common with the original The Evil Dead. It was made in 1979, and it for very small budget, but they had this big ambitious idea of all these car chases in this post-apocalyptic world, and they made it happen on this shoestring budget and had a hit film. But their inspiration was, it's the late 70s, and they were watching movies like Jaws and Star Wars by filmmakers like Lucas and Spielberg. And movies like that, I think in the late 70s, were this huge sea change when it came to like action cinema and like mainstream genre filmmaking in Hollywood and around the world. If you watch a movie like Jaws or like Star Wars, and then you go back and watch earlier action movies, you're just like, oh my God, how did people watch these older movies? Because they're so boring compared to those great movies from the late 70s. And so George Miller and Byron Kennedy were walking out of the theater after seeing, I don't remember what movie it was exactly, it might have been Jaws, and they were just saying to each other like, oh, do you remember that bit? Do you remember that bit? And they sort of, as they were talking about it later, they realized, most movies, even a good movie, you come out and everybody is saying, you remember that one part? And everybody there's this like one iconic, memorable moment in the film. And then the rest of it is like people talking to each other in rooms or whatever. It's like it's there to advance the plot. And then there's like something really cool that happens in the end of the film. Whereas the way they saw it is that the trick that Spielberg and Lucas had figured out was to just take those, you remember that bit, moments, and just make an entire movie of nothing but that. So every scene is something crazy and memorable and interesting. And I think that's a great description of a movie like Jaws or Star Wars. You know, like every scene, you remember it. It's got something crazy going on. You got they go right from shooting at the stormtroopers, they fall into the trash compactor, and then there's like a weird alien in there, and then they get out of that, and then it's like one thing after another, and it's like all so memorable and exciting. And so they tried to do that with Mad Max, and I think they succeeded. And I feel like the same way about Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. It's like there's so much creativity, and there's always something happening, and there's never just people sitting in a room talking about something. Like, there's barely anybody talking about anything in this movie. Like, it's kind of like the first film in that there's not a lot of dialogue, but it's just one insane thing happening after another.
Yeah, it sure is.
And I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. Me too. It's definitely not my usual taste in movies, you know? It's absolutely fucking disgusting. Mm-hmm. And they really go out of their way to make it as disgusting as possible. Like, how can we think of new and creative ways to make this as disgusting as possible? But they take it so over the top that it's hilarious. So it's up in this level that most things can't reach, but this does. So, you know?
Yeah.
Like most horror films and stuff, if they're like that gross, I'm just not, you lost me. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really be engaged in this film anymore. But because this is so ridiculous, it's funny to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is a kind of, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if there's any level of gore that I don't appreciate on some level, but I can definitely see what you're saying.
So I have a pretty high tolerance for gore. Like, I'm pretty okay, but there's like, I'm like good here, and then there's like this range here where I'm like, no, and then past there is just nonsense territory, and it's all good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a layer that I just can't deal with, but it's kind of rare for me to run into it unless a movie is like trying to do it.
What would you say seem to be some of the main influences on Sam Raimi's comedy stylings?
Oh, well, I already know they're obsessed with the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Like, they're obsessed with the Three Stooges. They can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that.
Yeah, so like there's one sequence in Evil Dead 2 where the monster is in the fruit cellar and it's trying to come up, and so they start like jumping on the trap door to push it down, and it ends up compressing its head so much that its eyeball squirts out and flies across the room and right into Bobby Joe's open mouth as she's screaming. That's exactly a Three Stooges skit, only with the Three Stooges it was a grape that flew out and went into somebody's mouth. So yeah, there are definitely some sequences here that are just like almost shot for shot, exactly a Three Stooges bit, but with gore. So that's definitely one. I feel like silent comedy is another one.
Oh, totally.
Like the bit where Ash's hand is possessed and it keeps breaking plates over his head and he like flips himself over. It's like obviously in fast motion. The film talk word that I learned for this is an undercrank shot. I learned that in high school.
Very official.
Yeah, so undercrank because in the old days, how fast you crank the camera determines how many frames per second you're shooting at. So if you want to do a fast motion shot, you just crank it slower. And so then when you play it back at 24 frames per second, it'll be really fast. So that's a fun fact for all of you listeners. But anyway, so it's like obviously sped up. And that's just like a Buster Keaton, or Charlie Chaplin thing, and that whole routine is just like there's no dialogue. It's just him doing all these pratfalls and all this crazy stuff. So
Yeah.
there's definitely stuff like that in there.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
I also feel like there's a lot of cartoon influence. Like I was talking about how I love the sort of duel between Ash and his hand, where he's like shooting at it through the wall, and it's that to me is a lot like Tweety Bird versus Sylvester, or Wile E. Coyote versus the Roadrunner. There's a lot of like classic comedy things where the one is like trying to literally kill the other one, but the other one is like somehow not scared and is just like like laughing at him and flipping him they don't literally flip him off, but like this is the logical progression of that. So it's like it's another way in which Evil Dead 2 is really kind of stands on its own, is that it's the marriage of this very dark material with this very childish, even puerile sense of humor taken from physical comedy and cartoons and stuff like that. Do you like the front half of the movie better, where Ash is alone in the cabin, or the back half where it becomes more of an ensemble piece as the 4 other characters arrive?
Probably the alone part. I feel like it just kind of got a little muddled when there's that many people, and the plot is not its strength. And then the more people you have, the more like plot heavy you have to be.
Yeah, I think I like the first part. I might like the first part better, but I love both parts, and I feel like they left Ash alone for the perfect amount of time before it would have run out of steam. And I like Roger Ebert's review of Evil Dead 2, and he talks about it in those terms too, as like a film that always seems like it's about to run out of steam, but it never does. It's like the perfect length where it's, you can only keep up these like high energy hijinks for so long before the audience becomes just exhausted.
Totally, yeah.
And they managed to thread that needle, I think.
Definitely.
I mentioned last time that the Book of the Dead is given the title in this film for the first time of Necronomicon Ex Mortis, and that's where our podcast title comes from. And I've already apologized about the bad Latin of our title, but now our listeners can understand fully that it is not my fault, but it is the screenwriters of Evil Dead 2 who are to blame, because it should be Ex Mortibus, because that's the proper ablative form of Morse to go with X. But it's also just kind of funnily bad Greek and Latin, because so Necronomicon is like a Greek word, and it means literally, they say it's Necronomicon Ex Mortis translates to Book of the Dead, but really Necronomicon translates to more like image of the law of the dead. So like icon, like an icon on your computer is image, and then nomos is law, and then necro is dead. And then ex mortis, ex is from or of, and then mortis is of the dead. So really, if you translated it literally, it would be like image of the law of the dead of the dead. So,
well, everyone just turned off this podcast. Congratulations. Do you feel better now?
I think I've provided a useful service just now, and everyone will be grateful to me for saying that, because now you know that it's kind of a silly thing, but
yes, now all of the burning questions that have been asked of us have been answered.
I burned with a longing to know the name, the translation of the Book of the Dead until I knew it, and now
well, there you have it.
The fire is put out, and I can live my life.
And now you can sleep at night.
So, last time we talked about the city versus country dynamic so commonly seen in horror films like Deliverance and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and how that sort of appeared in The Evil Dead. So how does that play out again in Evil Dead 2 now that we have sort of two sets of characters? We have like the more educated urban characters, Ash, Annie, and Ed, and then the hillbillies, Jake and Bobby Joe.
Yeah.
Like, how is the film leading us to think about that potential conflict between the rural people and the urban people?
I feel like the hillbillies and Ed were all stupid. So,
yeah, I think it definitely leans into that stereotype.
like
of the
Ash is probably
hillbillies.
somewhere in between those two, really. So,
I would say, and this is looking ahead to our discussion of Army of Darkness, I would say in Army of Darkness, he is. But here, he's not yet someone who works at S-Mart.
I know, but he's not like on the level of the like scientist people.
That's true, but he's a college student, yeah.
So he's somewhere in the middle. I would say. Well, more, not directly in the middle, but you know what I mean.
I guess, but I mean, like, this is the thing that happens in horror films, right? Is like college students, kids from the city, come out into the countryside, and then they get eaten alive by hillbillies.
No, the hillbillies were a mess.
Yeah. Here, though, they're not frightening, really.
No, they're not scary. Just scary, stupid.
And they're scared of Ash in the beginning, right? They mistake him for someone who's...
Possessed.
Yeah, who's sort of gone blood sick and killed everybody. So, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about this because I just watched a movie called Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Have you ever heard of it?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
I had it on my Netflix queue. It's one of those where it was sitting on there for so long that I forgot why I put it on.
Is that the one they're always comparing to The Evil Dead?
Maybe. I don't know.
There's a title that people always say, like, oh, if you like that, then you should see blank. And I feel like that might be it.
That's probably why it was on my Netflix queue. But to be honest, when I got it from Netflix, I was like, oh man, I have to watch this. It looked really stupid. And I was like, oh man, what, past me, why did you do this to me? So I watched it more out of just obligation, but it's actually great. And it's got Alan Tudyk in it as one of the main characters.
I know him. Yeah.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's great.
And it's a satire on these kind of films. The main characters, Tucker and Dale, are these two hillbillies. And they're vacationing at a cabin in the woods, much like in Evil Dead, when some city slicker college kids who are like just the kind of sort of ignorant buttholes that you would find in one of these movies come to their neck of the woods and are terrified of them because of a series of wacky coincidences where he's like chopping logs or whatever, and they see him with the axe or whatever, and everything they see reinforces their preconceived idea of these hillbillies as dangerous psychopaths.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so the horror and the the whole complication of the plot, which I won't explain, just arises out of this stereotype, which is totally untrue because Tucker and Dale are the sweetest guys.
Oh.
So it's a great. I would encourage anybody to watch that one because it's really funny and well written. But Jake and Bobby Joe are kind of good guys, but
I mean, he couldn't be that bad because she was like, because they charged them $100 to like follow them up the trail, and she's like, okay, but you have to carry my bags. And he thought it was just this little bag and like the pages from the book in the frame or whatever, and he's like, okay. And then like he really carries her giant trunk up the hill. So I was like, oh,
yeah,
that was nice.
I also think it's kind of neat how the pairs are so symmetrical, right? Like you've got Ed and Annie, and then Jake and Bobby Joe, and in both cases, it's like the woman is the brains behind the operation. Like Bobby Joe is the clever one who Jake says, "Sure, I'll take it, $50." And then she like kicks him and he goes, $100, you know? So it's like she's the one who's like got a little slyer.
Yeah.
So, and then Annie is like the scholarly student of her father, and Ed is just like kind of a dope.
Yeah. Finally, we have a woman character who's not a complete useless wet blanket.
Yeah. Annie is almost the hero of...
Almost. She almost made it.
Yeah, so she dies in the end, but there are moments where she becomes the protagonist, like when Ash becomes possessed and then she has to fend him off.
Right. Yeah. So that was refreshing.
She's got a great scream to her.
Oh my god. Okay, so I was watching this movie last night really late when like everyone else in my house is asleep, and I'm just thinking there is so much screaming in this movie.
There it is.
If you're trying to watch this movie and be quiet, you're gonna have a hard time because it's just 75% screaming.
Yeah, and she has like kind of this nasally voice. She's like, ah, ah, ah.
Yeah, there's a lot of screaming.
We also talked last time about the evil forces in the first film being aligned with nature or plants. How does the sequel define the struggle between humanity and the natural and supernatural world?
I mean, some similar stuff happened in this movie, like with the sentient trees and vines and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then when the evil like manifests in physical form at the very end, it's kind of like a giant tree-ish thing with all these heads sprouting out of it, like buds out of a tree.
It's hideous.
Yeah, that thing's awesome. I love it. And then he like puts his chainsaw into the eye and all this gray goop comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that part.
I'm sure you do.
So yeah, I definitely think that it kind of builds on that aspect of the first movie. And what interests me also is the part where Ash replaces his hand with a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Now, many people may just say that that's something that's just there in the movie to be groovy, but I think that it's also kind of meaningful because it's a kind of union between man and technology to fight nature, you know? And he does, like when he's like putting the chainsaw into the thing, you know? It's like, and a chainsaw is something that's used to cut down trees. Like that's the point of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Sounds good to me.
So, yeah, I think that's something that maybe we could sort of see as a through line in the series is like Ash is he sort of becomes something like a culture hero. Do you know what a culture hero is?
No.
In like cultural anthropology, it's like a hero in myths that functions to kind of protect civilization against the forces of nature. So like Gilgamesh goes off and like fights this giant that's, you know, terrorizing the people, or Prometheus steals fire from the gods and gives it to humankind, giving us like technology in a way to like survive in the hostile world. And it's like stuff like that. I feel like Ash kind of becomes this emblem of human civilization and our ability to take care of ourselves and stuff like that. I don't know.
It's very deep.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Do you buy it or?
Sure. Sounds good. Gives a lot more like legitimacy to these films.
Yeah.
I don't know if they really put that much thought into it, but
yeah, probably not. I mean, but they're just building on tropes that are already there, you know, unconsciously or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess that's a good transition to talking about Ash as a character. Does he seem like he's the same character from the first film? How has he changed? What kind of development do they give Ash in this film? What do you think?
I feel like this is the film where Ash becomes the Ash we know and love. Like, you can see this is where that comes in. He's like more funny now, a little bit more like physically funny, you know.
Yeah,
He's got some more catchphrases now. This is where the groovy thing comes from.
Mm-hmm.
We hear that the first time here. So he's the Ash that everyone is familiar with, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. By the end of the first film, he's sort of become a lot more competent than he was at the beginning of the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's no longer just a wuss. He's actually fighting back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what maybe defines Ash, as at least as a character that we watch, like what makes him fun to watch, is that he's always sort of wildly swinging back and forth between being terrified and in pain and being like totally unjustifiably overconfident and like laughing at his enemies. Yeah. Right, like as soon as he gets the upper hand, he's like, you idiots, you know. And he's like, oh, now you'll get, you know. So he has this like swagger to him as soon as he is, you know, has the upper hand for a moment, and then he'll lose it again. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, definitely starts here.
Totally. Yeah. I like this Ash a lot better than Ash in the first one. I mean, obviously.
And maybe that comes from the fact that he's like no longer, for the most part, like killing his own friends, you know, because
it's pretty rough.
We get a little bit of that. We get possessed Linda at the beginning of the film, which is some great stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's we talked about this with the first film too, but like there's stuff in this that doesn't look great, but I would say that all three of these films are more or less perfect films, where in the same sense that any film is perfect, in that every film has flaws, every film has things that are not perfect, that are not, you know, that you might want to go in and fix, but they're not things that materially damage the effect that it's going for. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think in Evil Dead 2, a lot of the janky looking effects just make it funnier and better.
Definitely.
Like, I'm thinking, what reminded me of this is we were talking about him fighting possessed Linda, and I love the bit where he's got her head in the vice grip thing in the shed, and he looks for the chainsaw, and there's like a chalk outline of where it should be, but it's not there. And then we see the Linda's possessed body runs in and starts like trying to attack him with the chainsaw, and he has to fend it off. Mm-hmm. And it just looks so goofy and so bad. Like, it's obviously like a marionette that's just somebody off screen is like ramming into Bruce Campbell over and over. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it so funny.
Right. It's like endearing. Yeah. It gives it character, and it's silly, you know? And you just feel like you're having a good time with the people who made the movie. Definitely. It's like we're all just having a good time together. You know? Yeah. They intended it to look stupid. It's part of its charm.
Yeah, but I think it's like the effects can look bad, and sometimes it's better for them to look bad. Mm-hmm.
Don't try too hard to make it look good. Just lean into the bad.
Yeah, but there are certain other elements of the filmmaking that are just rock solid, and those are what support it and make it so fun to watch. Things that you don't necessarily notice, but like if we're talking about that scene, like the sequence of shots, like very clearly communicates to us what is going on. We're never confused, and even at the expense of having it follow this like cartoon logic where there's a chalk outline where the saw should be. But you know, that shot just instantly tells us, where's the chainsaw, right? In a way that, you know, we understand that, and then no sooner have we processed that when the body barges in with the chainsaw. And there's a lot of stuff like that where I think the writing is actually really good, not in terms of the dialogue being amazing, but in terms of setups and payoffs and communicating things to the audience visually. I like as well the way that Annie eventually dies. She gets stabbed in the back by the Kandarian dagger held by the evil hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a clever thing, right? Because they set up the hand at great length, and then what happened to it? It was holding Bobby Joe's hand in the dark, mm-hmm. and then she flips out and runs out into the forest, and that's the last that we see of it. And we forget in the intervening scenes, we forget all about the hand. So it's a surprise when it comes back. But this is like the definition of like good writing, right? Is it's surprise, but then, oh yeah, you know, it was set up earlier. It's not some new monster that just came out of nowhere.
That's very true.
So I guess that's most of what I wanted to say about Evil Dead 2. I guess we could end by saying, is there anything like that you're not a fan of in Evil Dead 2?
Don't make fun of me. I feel like it's romantically a disaster.
Well, he kind of... There is a romance to this, right? Where he starts off with Linda, and then it's kind of like in the first Evil Dead, it's his love for Linda that ultimately saves him because he sees the necklace and it makes him transform back into a person. And then there's a brief moment where it seems like he's gonna have feelings for Annie right before all hell breaks loose, and then she dies. So, what about that is a disaster?
That's a lot in a really short amount of time. I mean, I sort of understand because there's like that shared trauma bond going on, but it still is just a little too quick. Like, you were crying about Linda 2 seconds ago. Like, I think we could have done without the weird romantic chemistry between him and Annie.
Well, I kind of feel like it's almost part of his transformation that he undergoes in this film from a more ordinary character in the first movie to this mythic, heroic, manly guy, you know, because
he's like kind of a debonair, like swashbuckling. Yeah, I get it.
That's like part of the macho heroic archetype is having like a new girlfriend in every movie, like James Bond or Indiana Jones.
This would, well, I guess you're right. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's just something I would change.
Yeah. Well, would you have?
I liked Linda Annie more as a romantic interest, but I don't know how to fix what they did there. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe romance fans.
This isn't for you.
You could skip this one.
I mean, I make do with it, and you know, it's okay as long as you know what you're getting into. Like, don't get your hopes up. Don't be like, ooh, you know.
But the next film we're going to talk about is much more romantic.
No, it's really not.
So let's move right along to Army of Darkness. So today's is a twofer because I don't actually consider Army of Darkness to be a horror film. That's something we can discuss in a moment. But it's part of the series, so we're going to talk about it, but it's going to have to share the episode slot with Evil Dead 2. So, some basic facts about Army of Darkness. It was released in 1992. Surprise, surprise, it was again directed by Sam Raimi and co-written by Sam, this time with his brother Ivan. It stars Bruce Campbell and Embeth Davidtz, and once again has a musical score by Joseph Loduca. So, plot summary time. Oh, I didn't say spoilers at the beginning.
I think it'll be okay. It's fine.
Okay, maybe I
me.
can say spoiler alert now and then retroactively edit it into the earlier, like George Lucas adding McClunky into the
Yay.
Han Solo shootout with Greedo. Like it'll just like awkwardly have like a record scratch thing and say spoiler alert.
Let's don't.
Okay, well, you know now, listeners, that you shouldn't have listened to the earlier part of the episode, and don't listen to this either if you haven't seen Army of Darkness, because I'm
No
going to say
one would
the plot.
fucking do that.
Well, I'm just
wouldn't
covering my
happen.
bases. Just want to be sure.
Plus, you can put it in the show notes, and you can put it in your post about it, and
Yeah. Okay. Once again, the picture begins with a brief recap of the previous films that also drastically compresses their plots. As in the end of Evil Dead 2, Ash finds himself transported to the Middle Ages. Rather than immediately being hailed as a savior, though, he is initially mistaken for a member of an opposing army, one of Duke Henry's men, and taken prisoner by a rival lord named Arthur. At Arthur's castle, Ash is thrown into a pit full of murderous deadites, as those possessed by demonic forces are known, but defeats them and escapes with the help of his trusty chainsaw arm and shotgun. Overawed, Arthur and the other primitive screwheads agree to help Ash get back to his own time. To do this, though, he must go on a heroic quest to retrieve the Necronomicon from the forces of evil. Let's hope he remembers to say every single syllable of a magical incantation when he does so, lest he awaken an army of darkness and have to spend the remainder of the film helping Arthur defend his castle from a horde of undead led by a doppelganger named Evil Ash.
Mm-hmm.
So I said shotgun. It's not really, is it? It's a rifle.
I did learn in my podcast that the two things are not the same.
No, a shotgun is not a rifle.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, so I mentioned that I don't consider this one a horror film. Do you consider this to be a horror film?
No, I don't.
Why not?
It's not scary. It doesn't even seem like it's trying to be scary.
Yeah,
There's not a whole lot of horror aspects to it. It's a comedy. It's like very much a comedy. I think people who are like super duper sensitive to anything horror related won't like it, but you'd have to be really sensitive.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I agree. My definition of horror is based on the intention of the filmmakers. Like, are they trying to really scare the pants off of the audience? Mm-hmm. And I really don't think they were with this one.
I think they were just having fun with this one. It's got the same themes, but it's not. It's wildly different than 1 and 2.
Yeah. To me, the scariest part is when he's down in the pit and then the monster like jumps out. There's like kind of it's hidden. It's camouflaged with the wall.
I think I screamed.
Yeah.
And I've seen this 100 times.
So that part is a little bit scary, but yeah, for the most part, the monsters here are just funny. Mm-hmm. And I would consider it like an action comedy, and one of the best. I really like this one.
It's very like Princess Bride-esque, where it has like everything, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, just not as wholesome.
Yeah. It doesn't have really a lot of family values, I would say.
No, definitely. Don't watch this movie with your mom, probably.
Unless your mom's really cool. So, what's your favorite aspect of Army of Darkness?
My favorite aspect?
Yeah.
The comedy. It's hilarious. And it's still hilarious after seeing it 100 times.
Definitely. I agree. It's it's one of those where you can rewatch it a lot.
Oh my god, yeah. And if you're having a bad day, you're going to feel better after you watch this movie. I mean, I understand that it's probably not this way for everyone, but for people like us, it's just sunshine. It's just like gold. It's the best.
Yeah, it's the funnest one. I would agree with that. We haven't talked at all about the music.
I know.
Which all three films share the same composer.
Because you always talk about the music.
No, I just suck.
Oh, okay. Well, I love the music.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. And I think Army of Darkness has the best. soundtrack.
I did notice that. It almost has, it's got that like epic Star Wars, Lord of the Rings type, where it's so intense and it just adds this whole other layer to the adventure, of the film.
Yeah, I guess that's another big tell that this isn't a horror film, is that the music is much more of a heroic action movie, like a classic action movie kind of vibe, which goes along with a lot of the influences for this one, like Jason and the Argonauts is obviously an influence with the stop motion skeleton sword fighting going on. How would we describe Ash's development as a character between 2 and 3 and over the course of 3? Is he pretty much the same character as in 2, or what? What do you think?
He seems to be a lot more confident in 3. He's got a bunch of skills we haven't seen before. He's apparently some kind of genius because he was able to create his own mechanical hand.
Yeah.
So, and he's like a really good shot, and he's can like do all these flips and stuff, and he's kind of this all-around badass. And he seems pretty selfish at first, but then he has a change of heart and wants to stay and help everybody. So I guess he has growth as a character, like as a person, like do the right thing kind of thing. So there's that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like he is quite different here. He's become even more of a cartoon than he was in Evil Dead 2. Where he's comically overconfident. But yeah, like you said, he also is extremely skilled. I would say he's definitely like a send-up of a comic booky hero figure, like an action movie hero.
Totally.
Somebody that might be played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s or by Errol Flynn in the golden age of Hollywood.
That's a good reference. Very nice.
And yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, it is pretty funny how like he's able to develop these futuristic technologies like the robotic hand back in the Middle Ages.
All by himself.
Yeah. Just because he has a chemistry textbook in the trunk of his car, so that explains it. But it is kind of, I think it's part of the fantasy of going back to the Middle Ages. Like, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but like, do you ever think about like if you could go back in time?
Absolutely.
Like, wouldn't it be fun to kind of seem like you're a wizard to the people back then with just having your iPod or whatever?
That's
or your iPhone?
Not typically like what I focus on when I imagine going back in time.
What would you do?
I don't know. Try to stay as clean as possible.
Well, I guess that's where I was going. Is like there's the other side where like if you think about it just more than 5 seconds, it would actually be horrible. Because
where's my toothpaste?
Yeah.
Where's my
deodorant?
Toothpaste. Where's
Well, and our clothes are like useless compared to the clothes they used to have.
Yeah, they're like made of like burlap.
Yeah, they had clothes that would like last forever, and our clothes
like
just wear out
leather.
Constantly, so we have to keep buying more. And that goes for everything. None of our technology would last more than a few weeks without any of the support structure that we have.
Totally. Yeah, we'd be fucked.
Yeah, if you had a car, it would run out of gas and then no more gas.
And you'd have to like kill and eat your own food, and I wouldn't be able to do that, so I would starve to death and die. It wouldn't go well.
Well, people didn't always have to kill and eat their own food back then, but you'd need to pay money that you don't have to...
I'd have to be a prostitute. I wouldn't have any other skills.
Yeah.
Just cut that out.
Or, you'd just instantly be taken to be a witch and burned at the stake or something.
Or that.
You know? Like,
honestly, that would be
which
the
is
most,
pretty much what happens to Ash at the beginning of this.
most humane thing that could possibly happen to me.
But yeah, it is kind of fun to think about, like, you know, how could I parlay my knowledge of future stuff into some kind of good outcome for me in the past. And I think Army of Darkness is kind of like the silliest, most over-the-top version of that fantasy.
Yep, definitely. It's pretty ridiculous.
Did you feel like Army of Darkness, you notice any like films or other stuff that was influential on this picture in particular, or things that were influenced by it?
Well, you told me something that blew my mind while we were watching it. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So I guess I'll start with, so the climax of the film, as I hinted oh so subtly in my plot summary, involves Ash having to defend a castle against an army of undead. And I definitely think that whole scenario is based on a number of earlier films, like Seven Samurai, The Magnificent Seven, Zulu. And so stories where a small number of defenders, like in the Alamo, have to fend off a giant army of invaders that are besieging it. So there's already kind of like a cinematic language for that kind of thing, and I think this is a parody and a hilarious send-up of that kind of action movie scenario. But then I think Peter Jackson was heavily influenced by Army of Darkness when he made The Two Towers, the second Lord of the Rings film. So there's that film ends with another situation where, you know, vastly outnumbered group of heroic characters have to defend against an army of evil monsters besieging the castle. And there's stuff in that part of the movie that's like exactly what happens in Army of Darkness. Like the bad guy Saruman is up in his castle with his lackey Wormtongue, and he gives him a little pouch of like gunpowder to hold, and Wormtongue stupidly holds it right over a fire because he doesn't know what gunpowder is, and Saruman's like, oh, and like pushes it away from the fire, wordlessly warning him not to do that. And that's the exact same thing that happens here with Bruce Campbell, who has invented gunpowder in order to put on the end of the arrows that they're going to fire at the monsters, and the primitive screwhead who's standing by, who does the same thing Wormtongue does. So there's definitely like deliberate homages there, I think.
I had no idea.
Oh, another one I think definitely was influential here, and this is returning to the Mad Max series. The second Mad Max film, The Road Warrior, also features a group of defenders who have to ward off a bunch of people who besiege the city. Have you ever seen that one?
No.
Oh, it's great. And that is really similar because Max is not from that town, and he comes in as like a mercenary, and he like has a deal where he's saved one of the guys from the bad guys, and he says, well, if you bring me back to my town safely, then you can have all the gas you want so that you can just go wherever you want to go. Max is this lone wanderer in the wasteland. And so he brings him back, and then they're like, oh, great, you're here to like help us fight against these bad guys. And he's like, no, I want the deal. I just want the gas. I want to go. And, you know, then they make him feel bad about it, and there's like a little kid, and then he ends up like teaching them and helping them to fight against the bad guys. So it's like the exact same story as Army of Darkness, like the second half of Army of Darkness.
Got it.
So anyway, so I think, you know, I mean, Mad Max is already like 3/4 of the way to the kind of parody that Army of Darkness offers of that scenario, because Max is already an anti-hero who doesn't want to save the day. But it goes further with that, you know, making him even more ridiculous because Max is not. We're not laughing at Max. Like he's like the cool badass guy who just doesn't care, whereas Ash's way of refusing to help is like, ooh, you know, I got other stuff to do. Like he's like more of like a wimp about it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay.
So I guess we can end today's episode by talking about the different endings of the trilogy. So originally, they had shot the film and put it together with one ending, and the studio didn't like it, so they made Sam go back and shoot a different ending, and that's the theatrical version. The Blu-ray that I have nicely has 4 different versions of the film. It has the theatrical version, a director's cut, an international cut, and a TV cut. I've only seen the director's cut and the theatrical cut. I think the other two are like in between those two in terms of runtime. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that they're just variations on this scene is there in this one and it's not in that one. So it's probably, you know, not essential to watch those ones, I hope.
Totally.
But anyway, so the original ending has Ash being told by the resident wizard that he, in order to go back to his own time, he needs to drink exactly a certain number, I think 7 drops of a magic potion in a cave where he's caused a cave in, and so no one will disturb him. So he'll be Rip Van Winkle and sleep for the right number of thousands of years in order to, or hundreds of years in order to wake up in his own time. And Ash does everything, but then when he gets into the cave and he's dropping the eyedropper into his mouth, he's like 1, 2, 3, and then he hears like a crumbling of more rocks caving in, and he gets distracted, and then he starts 3, 4, 5. So he does 3 twice, and then he falls asleep, and we get this neat little montage, like in The Time Machine, of you know, him quickly aging with a beard growing and spider webs growing over him and cool stuff like that. And he wakes up and comes out of the cave to discover that the world has been destroyed. It looks like there's the ruins of a futuristic society all around him, and he says, "I've slept too long." Mm-hmm. So that's the original ending. They thought it was too depressing, so they made him reshoot it, where we see that he is working back at S-Mart, and he has again failed to heed the advice of the wizard by not saying all the words exactly right, and so as a result, it seems like Deadites have come to the present time, and they attack the store where he is, and then he smooches some random lady who's there that Heather recognizes from a different show or something. What was it?
The Wedding Singer.
The Wedding Singer. And so that's the end. So that doesn't seem like a super happy ending, but it's framed as like he is still the hero even though he's working back at S-Mart.
He seems happy about it.
Yeah, it's like this is just his life now.
Yeah, it's like
and
this is just
accepted.
his destiny.
Yeah, he's kind of accepted because he says, "Hail to the king, baby." Right. So it's like he's accepted that he's a sort of kingly figure.
Yeah, and this is just like he acts like he's needed here in this time. He's needed here at S-Mart. Like S-Mart needs me. I guess he just feels some sort of duty to working there and living that life and mediocrity.
Yeah, which I think is in its own way is a kind of a great ending to the series, right? Because the series has been about this like series of unfortunate events happening to this luckless guy who just over and over is assailed by the forces of evil.
Yep.
And barely survives, and then the film ends always with the last, you know, something else terrible happening to him. And so the conclusion maybe is that, yeah, it's going to keep happening, but he's sort of grown into the hero of time or whatever, and so he's like Well, and his work, the little we see of his work at S-Mart, he's just like stamping one box after another. So it seems like it's a boring ass menial job, and so it's a kind of liberation for him to go from nobody to being the great hero. So that's kind of neat. So I know you like that ending more. What don't you like about the original ending?
It's depressing as fuck. I mean, what do you mean? You know that's a stupid question. I don't know what you like about it, other than that you're deranged.
I like the thing where he's putting the eyedropper drops into his mouth.
That part is funny.
That's funny, and it's cleverer than just redoing the Klaatu Barata Nikto bit where he forgot the words again, which is like, would he really forget them again? I guess that is kind of funny that he would forget a second time. But it's better to have a new bit that's also funny than to just reference have a callback to an earlier gag. I like that better, and
it's something equally as stupid but new and different.
Yeah, and I like that it sets up a cool thing for a sequel, which now that we know that the sequel isn't going to come, I guess it's whatever, but I like the idea of Ash being in a futuristic world.
I never thought about that. I just pictured him wandering around until he died, like alone and sad.
Well, no, of course he's going to find other survivors, and the Deadites are going to be there too.
I never thought about other survivors. I just thought everyone was dead.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. And he would just be sad and alone and then die. Because there's probably no food or anything, so...
Yeah.
That's why I was so sad about it.
So, any last thoughts about Army of Darkness?
No. It's a great movie. I love it. It never gets old.
Yeah, check it out if you haven't.
I don't know what the fuck you're doing here if you haven't seen it before.
Well, people just love our podcast so much.
You're right. That's it.
There's a lot of people that just can't help themselves. Even when they hear the spoiler warning, they're like, well, what am I going to do? Wait 2 hours to hear the rest of this podcast? Like, I can't do that.
That's exactly it.
So, we apologize to all of you who have themselves spoiled just through the intensity of their love for our podcast. Speaking of our podcast, next time we'll be covering the final elements of the Evil Dead franchise, the remake from 2013 of the original film.
I have to watch that.
Yes, you do. And the television show, Ash vs. Evil Dead. So you'll have to watch. You've seen most of it, but you'll have to watch the last few episodes.
I have to watch the last 2.
Yep. So, Wood Across the Bear. We will see you then.
Goodbye.